Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and this is my 6-month review of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And today I will give you a quick update on what it's been like to use as my daily phone, including how I use it, the cameras, battery health, overall condition, and whether it was worth upgrading from the 12 Pro Max. So this is the 13 Pro Max and I went for the graphite colour along with the 1TB of storage. I will explain later why I opted for this storage and whether it was worth the upgrade. Now it might not look like it, but this phone is used every single day, whether it's checking my social accounts, emails, listening to music, or recording my YouTube videos. It's used a lot and I don't really baby it. Condition wise it's looking pretty good. The rear is immaculate and the stainless steel bands on the side are practically scratch free. But then that's no surprise as I have been using it with an Apple leather case and a Spigen screen protector. Now I actually do prefer the look and the feel of the iPhone without a case and a protector on, but I still fit these every year just in case. And if you look closely you can see that I've actually cracked the screen protector, although I've never actually cracked a screen before. But the screen on the 13 Pro Max has been perfect for me, not just for the quality but for the size as well. The Super Retina XDR looks awesome on it and it makes taking and editing photos so much easier. And I've always enjoyed the larger phones, like the Plus models that we used to have, and this one is no different. The 6.7-inch screen means I'm able to see everything that I need and it actually makes it enjoyable to use. And as I edit all of my Instagram photos on here in Lightroom, I found that the resolution, clarity and the screen size makes it the perfect combination. Sure, my iPad or even my MacBook would make it easier again, but since my photos are taken with the iPhone, I can shoot, edit and upload in one go. In normal indoor use or low light, the screen is plenty bright enough. It maxes out at 1000 nits and it's really only when I'm using it in direct sunlight is where I struggle to see it. But that's a combination of the 1000 nits and the reflective screen. Now one thing I've totally gotten used to is the 120Hz ProMotion display. It's only when I grab my 13 mini do I notice the difference, and going back to a 60Hz screen definitely seems like a step back. And the new 120Hz screen is super smooth. Hopefully we'll see this year's 14 models adopt that 120Hz screen too, and it will be the new standard across all of the devices. A quick note on Face ID, although it's fast and very responsive at unlocking, over the last 6 months there have been various situations where masks are still mandatory. It would have been nice to have had a Touch ID under the screen, it's still something that I do miss. Right, let's talk about the cameras on the 13 Pro Max, and first the video capability. So I use the iPhone as well as the 13 mini to record all of the videos on my YouTube channel. So that's every video since the Xbox Series S review were all recorded with one of these two iPhones. Now I do use a gimbal on most of my videos, but there are dozens of clips where I don't, as the iPhone's inbuilt stabilizer is incredible. I'm still amazed at just how good the iPhone cameras are, and how capable they are at recording decent 4K footage. I shoot everything in 4K 30, then I edit in Final Cut Pro on my Mac, and I upload it from there. Sure, it's not as good as a dedicated camera, but you know what? It's not bad. It's the reason I've still not moved away from using an iPhone to create with. It's easy to use, it's fast, and it looks good. I also record all of my Instagram reels and TikTok videos on this phone as well. And not only do I record them on the iPhone, but I edit them on here too. I use an app called Splice. I just import, cut, export, and again it's ready to upload. Now although I shoot everything in 4K 30, it can actually do up to 240 frames per second, and that depends on the mode that you're using. It can also do the cinematic mode. Now this is something I have used a handful of times on a couple of videos. Not a lot, but it's enough to appreciate just how good it looks. Now the only limitation of using this mode is it only shoots at 1080p instead of 4K, but looking back at some of the footage now that I have shot with, I should definitely use this more often. Maybe just dial back the depth of field just a little bit so it looks less fake. Now the tap to focus works really well. I've not experienced any issues with it failing to focus on what I needed it to, but I have had two small issues with the iPhone. One is the low light performance on the ultra wide lens, where it can get incredibly noisy. Without a lot of light it really struggles to capture what you need and it looks a little bit too soft. The other issue is that it doesn't lock the white balance when filming. It's great that we can lock the focus and the exposure, but we really need to be able to lock the white balance too, or at least be able to manually adjust it to our own preference. Sure, there are other apps that I can use, which I have used, such as Pro, but I actually prefer using the standard iPhone app overall. It's just easier and faster. Pro Raw is another feature that we've got with a 13 Pro Max, but it's not a feature that I've used at all. Even with the 1TB storage that I have, the file size of the videos are huge. It's just not realistic for me to use Pro Raw when creating videos for YouTube. And that brings me onto the transferring the videos that I do record to my MacBook Pro from the iPhone. As the port on the bottom is just a Lightning, it's far too slow when transferring videos away. I tend to use AirPlay as I don't always have cables with me, but if the iPhone had a USB-C port, that would be awesome. Maybe this year with the Pro models, that is something that it will come with. Next up, the photos that the iPhone can take. Again, it'd be no surprise that every photo that you've seen from me on Twitter, Instagram, and even my YouTube thumbnails are all shot with my iPhone. Now, I always shoot in RAW and I edit them in Lightroom. RAW means that the file sizes are a lot larger than JPEG, but the quality and the flexibility while editing is definitely worth it. The normal wide lens still amazes me just how clear, sharp, and accurate it is. I'm often asked what camera that I'm using or if I'm still using an iPhone, and my answer is always the same. The iPhone with the right lighting is a pretty decent camera. I do use portrait mode from time to time, and it looks good if you dial the depth of field back just a little bit, and it almost passes as an SLR. Sometimes. But what I like about the iPhone camera, both video and photo, is that it's always on me. It doesn't matter where I am, I've always got my phone in my pocket. I can use it to capture some candid footage for a video or a story, or take photos for my Instagram. And that's what I like most about the phone. So the 13 Pro Max is a big phone. It's obviously the largest iPhone that they make, but it's not as huge as some users would have you believe. Using it one-handed isn't the easiest of things, but I can easily control the bottom half of the phone with one hand. Failing that, you can always use the half screen view if you can only use it one-handed. I don't have any regrets going for the larger phone. It definitely serves a purpose for me, and I like the size of it as well. One huge advantage of the Max over the smaller sizes is the larger battery capacity. I use this phone every single day for hours a day, filming, editing, browsing, and I rarely run out of battery. If I'm not filming with it, I'm probably losing hours and hours a day on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Those are definitely my most time-consuming apps right now. And here's my current daily average of the screen on and off. It would be a lot more if I wasn't looking at my monitor on my desk set up for more than 8 hours a day. But I am impressed with just how well the battery health has held up. At 6 months old, I would have expected the battery percentage to have dropped by a few percent. Well, it usually does, but it's still showing 100%. And that's great, but realistically, it makes no real difference to my day-to-day as I charge it every single night. And as for my charging routine, it's no different to my previous phones. I use it all day, then I charge it every single night regardless of the remaining battery. I also only use the MagSafe charging, and I don't think I've ever used the Lightning port. I have the optimized battery charging enabled, which I think has probably contributed towards that 100%. So as I mentioned, I do have the 1TB storage on this. This might seem like overkill to most, but for me, it wasn't a huge price difference between each option. I also wanted to make sure that I had enough for my filming and my weekly content. Usually once I finish filming, I will transfer the footage off the iPhone and onto my Mac, but I don't really need the full 1TB all of the time. But as of right now, I've got just under 7GB available. In theory, a 512GB would have done, but then it wouldn't give me much room if I was going away for the weekend. And I think if you do plan to keep a phone long term, it's worth going for the largest storage that you can, as you obviously cannot change this once you've purchased it. The stereo speaker setup means that if you are watching videos or listening to music, the sound is decent on it. I can turn them up pretty loud and the clarity is surprisingly good. I'll often have these speakers on when I'm watching YouTube videos, or I'll switch over to my AirPods or my AirPods Max when I'm moving around. So it's been 2 years since I picked up my Tesla Model 3, and today I wanted to give you my long-term review. When it comes to the apps that I'm using, I've got pretty much every single app I could possibly need. Most of them are hidden from the home screen, but it means when I do need them, I can just search for them. Day to day, I use things like Instagram, TikTok, my banking, and Lightroom. Maybe I'll do a what's on my iPhone video one day, just to show you all the apps that I currently use. But another great thing about the iPhone is I can use it as my car key. So as long as the Tesla app is installed, I can use it to unlock and drive my car without the keycard. And just for comparison, here is the 13 Pro Max against the 13 Pro. And you can see it's a little bit bigger overall. Then I've got the normal 13 and the 13 mini, which is a huge difference. It is a lot bigger than the other phones, but I think the extra size is worth it for the screen and the added features. And those features include the 120Hz screen, larger battery, Pro RAW and RAW capability. You won't get those features on the non-Pro models. So after using this for the last 6 months, was it worth the upgrade over the 12 Pro Max? I'd say yes, it was worth it. Now I sold my 12 Pro Max, which paid 50% towards this phone. The nicer screen, extra storage, and that awesome cinematic mode made it a nice upgrade for me. And it has been an absolute powerhouse for me. It's created almost all of the content that you've seen from me over the last 6 months. That includes photos, videos, editing, work, socials, everything that you could possibly do. I actually couldn't be without this phone for what I need to use it for. But day-to-day use, it wasn't a huge jump up from the 12 Pro Max. And if you've got a 12 Pro now and you're considering a 13 Pro, I would actually just hold off. We're halfway through this phone cycle and I reckon the 14 will see some bigger changes. It would be great to see a USB-C added along with a hole punch design for the camera, maybe even an under-screen fingerprint reader. You might have noticed the wallpaper that I'm using in today's video. Well, I actually made this a few weeks ago and it was inspired by the Gran Turismo 7, using the same colours as a gradient style. I've actually linked to that below if you wanted to check it out. So that was my 6-month review of the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and thank you for watching. And if you drop an apple or a robot emoji in the comments, depending on if you're using an Android or an Apple, I'll know you're still here right at the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my M1 MacBook Pro review, as it covers the reasons that I think the 14-inch model is the one to buy this year. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications on so you don't miss my next upload. You can also follow me over on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.